4, 3, 2. Hello. Hello, everybody. Who would we be without any technical difficulties? We wouldn't be the people we would be without some kind of barrier to our success. But, you know, just in the possible way, who would we be without any technical difficulties? We climb over this. Without some kind of barrier to I'm a bit confused because I can hear myself in the background, so I'm trying to figure out why that's happening. What I am going to do is put my earpiece.
Someone's probably playing the live video.
Is someone playing the live video? Is that me?
That came from.
Okay, guys, can I ask you to put your earpieces in? I think the echo is because we don't have it on.
I got to put headphones on?
Yeah, please.
I think the echo came from someone else watching the live video.
Killing us. Wow. Please.
The headphones time?
Yeah, because I've got echo going on and
okay. Hello?
Hi. Okay.
How's that feel?
I think the echo's gone.
Okay. Good.
These things happen.
Are you guys hearing this echo as well?
A little bit, yeah. I'm having to adjust where I sit.
Is it about adjusting our volumes?
Maybe. I don't understand. I really don't know. Last week we were good. This week hangouts don't like us.
But was it men?
Siete, have you got some headphones?
My headphones aren't compatible with my laptop.
Okay.
Yeah. So the only way I'd be able to do it is probably like through my iPhone. Should I switch on to my iPhone?
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, but then we have to.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, everyone sounds fine.
No, no worries. I think there is a really bad delay. Okay. They don't want us to be great today. Okay, I'm just going to keep talking and see what happens, okay? We may have to do this again, but we'll figure it out. It's cool.
Is there anyone that's got a radio on or a TV on in the
That's the
background?
thing. I haven't. Everything's... Do you know what? I think I know. I think I know. I think I know.
You have the YouTube.
Ah, damn it. Hello.
What was it?
It was me, of course.
Of course it was.
So, hi people. I'm so sorry. Simone's having a little stressed out morning, but it's fine. We're good. It's Sunday, and I have the sun shining, and I have these amazing, beautiful Black brothers from across the diaspora converging to give us some tea, some healing, some exchanging of knowledge and experiences, talking about the things women swallow. Gulp. Men swallow them too. So I thought this is really good because it's Women's History Month, right? And so loads of women are feeling good about themselves, and there's actually a large proportion of women who don't even know it's Women's History Month. So it's important for me to raise our voices any way we can. And I thought it's also important for men to be part of these conversations, right? The yin to our yang, whatever our preferences are, we have to live together. We have to find ways to empower each other and heal each other as well. And so I picked some of my buddies and new buddies and intergenerational buddies to come and talk with me this morning about the things women swallow, men swallow too. So now I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and I want you to introduce yourselves, and then we're going to get into the meat of the conversation. Can we do that?
We can do that.
Yes. Okay, people. So let's start with you, Ty. Introduce yourself.
I am a hip-hop artist, hip-hop enthusiast, sometimes speaker for community, and an encourager of Black excellence in general.
Like it. Mikhail, over to you.
Yeah, I call myself the world changer. I'm a music artist, speaker, and I run my lifestyle brand called World Changer Life, which is really about empowering people with the phrase "be the change you want to see." And so I create different outlets for that expression to be manifested. So yeah, good day.
We love it. We love it. Over to you, Siete.
Hi everyone, I'm Siete. I am the founder of the Myriad, which is a spiritual organization devoted to decolonizing the spiritualities of the diaspora.
And last but certainly not least, Richard M. Kaloma.
Cool. Hi everyone. My name is Richard Kaloma, as Simone just said. I'm a creative polymath. I am a fashion designer. I've worked over the years for small brands and large brands such as the Adidas's, Feelers of the World, Sean Johns, etc., delivering design packages and strategy packages. I work with young people. I work with universities and colleges as a mentor and a coach, essentially trying to empower the next generation coming up, giving them tools and just giving them some inklings into some of the insights I've learned in my design profession, in terms of how you create product and how you expand it out to people in the best way possible, and give them some of these ideas and tools for themselves to use, to empower themselves.
Thank you. So as you can see, a really accomplished and amazing bunch of guys from all over the world in all different walks of life. And we're here this morning or this afternoon for you guys as well, to kind of talk about the things we swallow. So I want to do a lot more listening than I do talking, because I really want this to be a male-centered space today. And so I guess, you know what, Ty? I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start with you because actually you've got a new LP out, which is called A Work of Heart, which I really loved. And it's one thing I don't see a lot around. I don't see really Black men taking the center in conversations around heart and emotions and love.
Right.
And so tell me really about, do you believe, and maybe in your experience or in your wider community and your peers, that Black men are kind of barred from, you know, kind of entering the spaces of love and showing love to others, love to their female counterparts and things like that?
Lovely. Thank you for inviting me into this space to talk in this way. So what I will say in the beginning is obviously the idea of what men swallow versus what women swallow as well. I almost feel like we need to kind of separate that a little bit, because I feel like what women swallow is a focus that we are still learning to embrace and understand and appreciate. And in regards to what are things that we're dealing with, our scenario is a little bit different. And I think it sometimes takes away from women's actual achievements and the obstacles they face if we look at it as a mirrored thing to us. So I'm going to talk about what I've experienced. I think there's a conditioning amongst Black males to not be vulnerable, to not be able to talk about certain things, and to not be as emotionally available. And because of my particular lifestyle and my particular journey, I've been able to see these particular things. And I try to, rather than preach it, do it. Bring the narrative of actually what does it feel like to be a Black male talking about certain issues that are diasporan issues. I really like the fact that Saete mentioned the diaspora. Sorry, brother. So my experience as far as a diasporan Black is we seem to take our cues from other cultures. So I seem to take my cue on what I'm supposed to be talking about from West Indian culture, or from American culture, or from African culture, thirdly. But now I'm really learning that I'm now a new generation of Black male that has certain inferences that I need to now bring to the fore myself, and learn to unprogram myself from. So I'm learning to unprogram myself from the idea that as a man, I'm supposed to only do this. I'm only supposed to talk about this. I'm only supposed to say that. I'm unlearning every day. I'm unpicking. I'm getting corrected on Facebook. All things are happening all the time. So it's a learning curve for me in regards to the unconditioning of the black man, of the black male vulnerability.
So, you know, just to follow on there, it would be great to hear, Siete, over to you, really. Do you feel there's ways that you have been deprived of certain parts of your emotionality because of being a black man? And how has that affected you? If it has at all, maybe it hasn't.
Absolutely. I grew up in New York. I was born in '89. And, you know, growing up at the tail end of the crack era, as a member of the Black community of New York City, you know, it was an inherently traumatic experience. You know, being socialized as a Black young boy and then later on as a young man through that trauma forced me to have to navigate my own identities, the constellation of my identity, in a way that constantly put me in a defensive position. You know, and to piggyback off of the previous statement about Black maleness, you know, I think that in addition to the aforementioned cultures that we take the cues for our maleness from and our manhood, we cannot ignore the influence of colonization and white Western patriarchy on our articulations of manhood. You know, so yeah, you know, when the Europeans and the Arabs came to Africa to colonize and steal, you know, they undermined our cultures. They you know, replaced, you know, archetypes of masculinity with theirs. And, you know, you see even things about the aesthetic of Black maleness and, you know, the hyper focus on particular points of aesthetic, you know, and it's like, well, you know, historically, this isn't even something that we would concern ourselves with. Like, you know, like even I was talking to a friend of mine about beard culture and how beard culture derived from white and Arab articulations of masculinity. Because in pre-colonial Africa, your manhood was about, can you hunt? Can you provide for your family? Can you farm? Can you, you know, protect your family against outside threats? Are you able to provide? Are you an asset to your community? Not, are you physically capable of growing facial hair? You know? And, you know, it's like, you know, we're also defining that that particular point of man in opposition to people that we perceive cannot produce that kind of facial hair, women. So if you're defining your manhood by what others cannot do, and you know, you're defining your manhood about how you can take or how you can isolate yourself or how you can impose power over other people. I don't really think that that's a very secure manhood, you know.
I
very.
I agree.
Yeah, I would say, like, I think it becomes very telling the ways that we push our archetypes of manhood, and also how little availability there is for Black men to have diverse archetypes of manhood. You know, the different templates that are available to us in our communities to derive our manhood from. You know, like you look at your uncles and your older brothers and your grandfather, and other people in the community, but when there aren't when there's not much room for diversity, when there's not much room for you know, differences, and you know, people being to show how they're unique, it's a very crippling, very painful experience. You know, that kills the diversity that we need to survive as Black.
No, I hear you, and I just want to bring in the others here, because I think Richard, and I'm going to come with you, Mikhail, because Mikhail, you excite me. I've seen the kind of stuff that you do on Instagram, but Richard, just taking it back to these kind of narrow depictions of what Black masculinity is this something you agree with, or you think there's a full range and we just don't know about it? I mean, what's your take on that?
No, I think growing up in, I grew up in West London, Ladbroke Grove, and there were fairly narrow ideas of what it was to be masculine through the lens of being a Black man, and that didn't leave a lot of place for too much vulnerability, unless when you were vulnerable you cloaked it in some kind of bravado, so there was there was that aspect to it. And also being, my dad's from Malawi in Africa, my mom's from Barbados in the Caribbean, and I've got a lot of experience with both cultures, going back and forth, as well as family members. And as I've grown older, I've come to realize that there are very, very different ways of being Black male, or different ways of understanding Black masculinity that is really particular to each place. I found that while in Malawi, and when I've traveled across Africa, particularly Ghana, South Africa, I spent a lot of time in, just a narrow, patriarchy is still quite rife across the continent, let's be honest. But at the same time, being a male is actually broader in terms of being a Black man, or masculinity is a broader experience than I've experienced over here in the UK. So for instance, we're, being hard or tough or cool in very particular ways, and a lot of those ways are kind of aligned to music culture, whether it's hip hop culture, dancehall culture. These ideas don't necessarily fit so completely in an African context, because these are very diasporan experiences. So when I've got, my cousin, for instance, who I remember years ago, he was into Celine Dion, and I just couldn't understand it. I'll be up front. I was like, Celine Dion, bro. Like,
can I just say that Pink Twice album? She's got some hits on there.
See, here's the thing. Like, I don't know any other Black man that would shout out Celine Dion, right?
Well, if you go to Jamaica, I'm sure, because Celine Dion and Shania, they're ruling out there. That's what I know.
I'll talk about in my experience, right? In terms of the guys I grew up with, and it was interesting because also when we had further conversations about his musical taste, I just realized that he didn't really get hip hop culture. He didn't get hip hop music. He was like, I'm not really into it. It's a bit hard. It's a bit aggressive. It's a bit too much for me. And that was really interesting, because that's when it clicked that this is a very diasporan experience. The way we navigate urban spaces, the way we have conversations with a very heavy and oppressive society that doesn't put you first or acknowledge your humanity, is a very diasporan thing. While there are different colonial issues in Africa and across the Caribbean, there are other issues they're dealing with, and other, some of them are relatable. I just found that when you went to different places, the dial shifted slightly. And I think that's the one thing that also, I think, helped me broaden my perspectives in terms of how I navigated my own space, because I realized that my world wasn't West London. My world wasn't even London. My world wasn't even the UK. It was much broader than that. So that aligned with being, Caribbean. That aligned with the influence I got from hip hop culture, and being fortunate enough and quite privileged enough to travel around quite a bit, both in my professional work as well as personally. You just get to see that being a man, being masculine, is actually really, really broad, and that the main issue that I've found is the fact that gender, or the ideas of gender, are super narrow. Here's what it's like to be a woman. Here's what it's like to be a man.
Absolutely.
And if you stretch outside of that, you're a bit weird, different alternative. So.
There's something.
Can I? Okay, go for it, Ty. I just want to bring in Mikhail, but go for it.
Go on, Simone.
Well, sorry, I'm going to come back to you, Ty, but I just wanted to say, Mikhail, you were talking about the dial, Richard, about how it shifted a bit in different spaces. But I'm thinking now intergenerationally, you know, Mikhail, the dial is shifting to you. I see you use your platform, your Instagram platform, where really you actually center Black women. And you center them in thought, you center them in what it seems indeed as well. And so I guess I want to ask what drives that? Why did you think that was important? Because for me, your generation, and I'm still young, boo, but your generation definitely, they seem to fully subscribe to the narrow definitions and also fluid definitions, but they fully subscribe to these kind of definitions of self that I haven't really seen much growth.
Get to the point. Say the thing, Simone. Say the thing.
What do you think I'm trying to say?
You're dressing up nicely.
Well, actually, no, I don't want to say the thing. I want Mikhail to say the thing because this is about you guys saying the thing.
I don't even know what the thing is, to be
Oh,
honest.
no, we don't know what the thing is. We should all know what things are.
We're gonna talk this talk, Simone. That's what my brother saying.
That comes back, you just put Black women all over your Instagram, innit?
Why? Are you asking me why?
No, yeah, I guess I'm asking you motivations. Why did you think that that was an important thing?
Because from the day I can remember, I love Black women. It's as simple as that. And for me, I've always stayed faithful to my own personal growth. So that from being a little child to just, you know, being in the bosom of my mother, my aunties, and my older cousins and stuff, to being a young budding man and wanting to lick every girl on road and all these things, to going through relationships and having solid friendships that actually help me grow and have given me such revelations in my life, to having a woman in my life who inspires me in such different ways. It all ticks over. Like, you know, I remember hearing Saul Williams talk about something in regards to the music artists. It's not that they don't have the skill to talk about certain things. It's when you revolve around a certain environment, that's what you're going to reflect. For me, when I was young, if you listen to my lyrics at 16, if you hear me talk about women, I'd be like, yeah, I'm linking a girl with a knife. Because at that time, I know guys who got stabbed when they went to go see girls. Does that make sense? That was my reality.
Yeah.
Now here I am in I guess the new millennium. You know what I'm saying? And I've got women around me who own businesses, women around me who pray for me, you know, women around me who, you know, just help my mind grow. And as an artist, I'm just going to reflect. That's literally my environment. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
And I've seen in that, I've just seen how important women are to every point in life. They're like the agent of growth. Does that make sense? In every way.
It definitely does.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's literally like that's my only motivation is that it's just because, you know, I see it.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't see it enough. Does that make sense?
Well, this is why it was important for you to be here. Yeah.
And I just want to reflect. Me personally, I just like being the rebellious person that does something that no one else is doing. Does that make sense?
Of course.
You know, and I didn't, you know, although I love hip hop in all forms it comes, I just didn't see a lot of what I had on my mind in the music. So, you know.
I love it. Really, Ty, can we bring you in? You were gonna say something.
I was going somewhere else, so
no, do it. Let's do it. It's a conversation.
Okay, so something Richard said sparked a memory for me, and it was about when I went back home in 1993. When I went back home to me is Nigeria, and I remember my cousin taking my hand and holding it, and we walking down the street. And I was confused.
A guy.
Yeah, I was a guy holding my hand like this. And I've never been homophobic, but I was, whilst it was happening, I was sitting there thinking, this is really interesting because he's doing nothing wrong. I'm realizing that whilst he's walking down the road with his cousin that he's never met before, who he's happy with, I'm processing the idea that a man is holding my hand and swinging it and walking down the road happy. All of my conditioning came to the front and I was looking at it. I didn't let it affect me. I didn't throw his hand away because I knew that anything that I was experiencing back home was the real thing. So I was recorrecting myself instantly, like, oh my God, why? I'd never thought about this. What is this? And it made me realize that, okay, there are invisible notions of manhood and visible notions of manhood that we've all let seep in, that we've let them cross over us. So whilst I was back home, I started to watch all my relatives, or especially my male relatives, walking down the road holding hands as men, and there was nothing about it. But my eyes was looking for trouble, but it wasn't a trouble. But so I quickly realized, I didn't say to my cousin, oh, why are you not doing that? I had a silent conversation with myself where I was like, Ben, somebody taught you that this is not okay, and it's fine. And I think that the reason why I brought that up is because I think that a lot of the conversations that we're having about what we're learning have to kind of be based around the idea that, wow, there's a whole invisible rule book that we've absorbed. And just like you said, Siete, about colonialization and stuff like that. And I guess the conversation that I'm trying to have is, how do we start to unpack and realize these habits, these connotations, these suggestions?
Well, I want to use that as our sort of rounding up question, because I like it. I think it's going to be quite liberating for us to talk about the different ways that we can unpack and also heal. I just wanted to draw us into another kind of area, which is what is the role women play in keeping these roles maintained? Which what we've identified is that they harm you. Because I think that this is not a one-way street. I think that we all have roles that, play in keeping men and women where they are. And it'd be good to hear from you guys the ways in which you feel women, and maybe even other men, keep you in these boxes that you can see don't serve you. And the reason why I think this question is important, because I want us to heal. So that means we have to break the chain of what we're doing. And then we're going to come back to your point, Ty.
Can I just say one thing before?
Of course you can.
I've never done this before. This type of Google Hangout, this kind of unpacking, this kind of healing needs to go at a natural pace. I feel like what we're about to do is jump just for the purpose of rhetoric and of notes and stuff like that. But the truth of it is, the healing that you want, for me, needs to come from this type of conversation happening freely without necessarily jumping from here to here. I'm cool to jump, but I feel like I'm missing something by jumping. And I just want to put that out there, but let's jump. Go ahead.
You know what? It's funny because I was gonna jump in with 2 points. One quick point was I had that same experience that you had, Ty, when I went back to Malawi when I was a youth, and I saw guys walking around holding hands, and I said to my dad, why are all these guys holding hands? And I think I might have said to him, what, are they gay? What's the deal? I didn't understand it. And he went, no, we just do that because they're friends. Yeah. And I was like, wow. Yeah. And then but that reminded me of two things. It reminded me of when I was even younger back in England. I would walk with my best friend and we'd have our arms wrapped around each other because we were best friends. But that was primary school. You come to secondary school, you can't do that.
You can't do that no more.
Right? And then fast forward to when I lived in Brooklyn for a short time when I was out there working, and I remember going to basketball matches and like proper fugged out looking dudes would greet each other and they'd hug each other. Yo, what up? So what you saying? And they'd be like hugs. I was like, wow. In England, as I'm talking about, early 20s, me and my friends would not hug. You know what I mean? We'll touch first, we'd link, but we'd never do that. And that's coming from a context where the idea of black masculinity is like hyper masculine. It's like, it's like super black man, super tough, super strong, super not best of me. But these guys were openly showing love, showing love, hugging each other, and they would say to each other, I'd hear it on a regular basis. Yo, I love you, man. I love you. Yeah, man, you're cool. I love you, man. What's up? And it was interesting because wrapped up in this idea of being super masculine, there's a lot of love shown. And you see it with guys who hang around with their guys, and they die for those dudes. They roll for those dudes. they would, no, ever, you know, I've been lifted up, you know, by some of my clothes, as well as being torn down by people who say these ain't the ideas of what we think black masculinity is. So I think it's very, very complex. But I do think, you know, trying to fast forward it a little bit, that we do need to kind of jump a little bit, because you can see it in the world now with all the campaigns around Black Lives Matter, Me Too, et cetera, like women, for, you know, whatever reason or purpose, I've not found a voice. They've always had a voice. They've always been very vocal, but the platforms and the media, people are listening to what women are saying. And I think, you know, we're going through a really kind of revolutionary sea change at the moment. And it's leaving a few guys unsteady, off balance. Like, oh, what does it mean to be a man now? You know, how do I unpick these ideas of masculinity, of maleness, and this overwhelming patriarchy that says, as a man, you're meant to be the leader, the most vocal, the strongest, never weak. You take care of everybody. You don't need no help from nobody. You know, you deal with all of your stress, all of your issues by yourself. And things are changing quite dramatically right now. And so, like, we've got no option but to jump, I feel, personally.
And that was a point I wanted to make, that these conversations are urgent. Because we have a crisis on our hands, and we have crisis because you're just seeing the tip of an iceberg with the current form of the Me Too campaign, and you're also seeing a certain type of woman's voice being voiced through that campaign. You're not hearing about women who are in poverty, undocumented, in service positions, who cannot take a time out or say anything or tweet. And these stories are, you know, they've been going on for multiple millennia. This is not new, but it's new to your ears. So I get what you're saying, Ty, but we don't have time to think. And also for the, you know, the context of this discussion, we got an hour, right? And I'm really want to understand really from you guys. I want you to tell me as well. I want to hear it in how women are part of this, because we are part of this, and it's not all on you guys, it's not all on us guys, it's a road we're walking together. And so I guess and I like what you were saying really about this love that you saw being shown, Richard, and stuff like that. And I guess I also want to talk about love, especially at the end, just how you show love to each other, and maybe also your Black female counterparts. I don't know if we feel the love. I'm just speaking just for things I've seen on social media and stuff like that, but it would be really nice to kind of explore that. But Mikhail, go for it.
No, just in regards to what you said about how women kind of uphold those I guess what those masculine stereotypes,
right, boxes that are not helping, right?
I was having this discussion. I was having a discussion with my friend. She's a lesbian, right? And I was having this debate, which I don't want to go deep into, but she said something in response to a question that I had, which is very interesting. I said that people are more okay with. I said, why are women not offended by? I said people are more okay with lesbians than they are with gay people. Does that make sense?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is a guy would be offended at two men kissing.
Two men.
Gay, two men kissing, but they wouldn't be offended at two women kissing. In fact, they'd be excited by that. And I asked her, why aren't women? You see how men get excited by two women kissing? How come women aren't excited by two men kissing? And her response, which relates to what we're talking about, was the fact that women, like men, have the male gaze, right? And so they've been taught the male gaze. So meaning, when they look at two men kissing, that to them is not a man, because a man is supposed to be attracted to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
So,
yeah, totally.
So she was like, they're not going to look at two men kissing because now she's been left out of the equation. Because women have been taught to be, the object of desire for men. So if two men are kissing, they ain't men. Does that in her eyes? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
whereas
it definitely does.
A man is looking at two women kissing like, yo, those are my prizes right there. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
And
you,
I think that plays into what you're asking in regards to how women upkeep it. Is just they look through, a lot of women look through the lens of a male gaze, even at themselves.
Yeah.
So when they make decisions about
to
manhood, about what they're going to do for themselves. Sorry, God, did you want to add?
Siete.
But yeah, I feel like that is absolutely correct. And you know, looking through the male gaze is also about desirability politics as a whole. You know, and who gets chose, and you know, also like you know, reinforcing what is desirable. And when we've decided as a people that that it is desirable to articulate violent sexualizations of masculinity, you know, that's when you have these kind of issues perpetuating itself over a generation. I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday, well, actually early this morning, like 2 a.m, about how, you know, so much of the language that we use around sex, you know, oh, beat it up, murder her pussy.
I hate it.
And all crazy, you know,
It's
like,
horrible.
so it's like, this is your baseline for how you interact sexually. And let's note that sex, sexuality, these are like core primordial parts of human consciousness. Like, you have people with Alzheimer's who can't remember their name, they don't remember their relatives, but they remember fucking.
Yeah.
You know, you go to the
You never forget to ride a bike.
Yeah, they you know, so they remember that because it's something that's so deep in the core of a person. So I think that, among other things, we need to address gender identity, gender expression, sexuality, sexual expression, and also desirability politics. You know, because I feel that in, you know, reinforcing what is desirable in a man, you know, as for instance, heterosexual women or cis heterosexual women, you know, they do contribute to setting the tone for what is desirable, because most men are just imitating what they know is desirable. You know, they know that it gives them social currency to behave a certain way, to dress a certain way, to, you know, speak a certain way, to, you know, move through the world in specific manners. And so they're very concerned with social currency. If we, you know, adjusted the social currency, you know, you'd see a lot of changes, because most people, unfortunately, are sheep. And you know, if we're talking about change, we're also talking about setting the tone for the leaders and for the followers.
Definitely. So, Ty, just going back to your point about healing, do you feel, and this is actually a really good one for everybody, so please jump in when you want to, do you feel slightly rushed in what these current times are demanding of you in light of campaigns like Me Too, Time's Up?
No, I don't feel rushed. What I feel like is, I feel like the world has got to this. 2018 took 2018 years to happen, and where we are right now in regards to what we deal with isn't just a thing of, it didn't just happen yesterday. There's a whole kind of tumbling that's happened. So when it comes to changing things that are really going to make things better for our kids, I feel like we have to approach the tumbling in a timely fashion, and understand that, let's say for instance, there's a dynamic that I always raise, and the issue is African and Caribbean cultures are not linking together in the UK like they're supposed to, but they're wondering why they're not benefiting economically, right? In order for that to really come about, you can't jump. You've got to get to the point where you say, right, let's get you in a room and let's get you constantly talking about this issue every week, every month, to the point that you get everything you need to, that you've learned, out of the way, on the table. Then someone will address it. Someone else will address it. Then you'll start to look at each other. You won't like each other for a while. Eventually, you'll start to see cracks in the shadow where you can be like, okay, do you know what? I can deal with that. I didn't think about that, but now you've made me think about this. I think that the issues in regards to black men and black women are so important that it's not about rushing. It's about it's about saying, right, you're taking this down and out person from off the street, right? Do you rush them to the laptop and start getting them typing, or do you make them bath? Do you give them a hot cup of cocoa? Do you let them talk about what it felt like to be cold outside? Do you get to that? Like, I feel like
but I hope that those people be able to do those basic functions for themselves. I don't think we should.
No. You asked me a question, so let me answer it. Simone. What I'm saying, I'm not trying to say you guys can't do what you're doing. I'm just saying, I really think with these topics, there needs to be more understanding that everybody isn't at the same place. Just because they're in the room doesn't mean they're in the same place. So to get everybody in the same place, you need to kind of start getting used to having this dialogue bit by bit to get people in the same place and then press on. And that's the only thing that I think.
Okay.
I do want to say, I think Simone might agree that, in striving to kind of get everyone in a basic sense of accord before we can have further conversation, we need to deal with the fact that, not everyone is in the same place, but there are also people who are extremely toxic. And how do we deal with toxic Black masculinity? How do we deal with the fact that it is violent? How do we deal with the fact that it is poisonous, that it murders people, that, yes, we can talk about systematic oppression and how the white man is this and the white man is doing that to us, but who is raping Black women? Who is beating Black women? Who is impregnating Black women?
I'm running
on the streets, running off, who is creating such a pointed anxiety about, desirability politics that men, especially Black women, are left feeling unwanted.
Who is suffering from illegally and not even realizing they're suffering from it?
Yeah, and it's like, how do we get everyone in one accord while still protecting Black women?
Right.
Because they are the horrible party here. Yes, patriarchy will kill us all if we don't address it, but we would be the ones to die last.
Yeah. and I just want to back that up with a few facts, which go for it.
Sorry, I'm just losing reception. I don't know. No, I'm just losing reception. So.
Oh, okay. You're a little in and out, but we can still see you. But just to back up Hassan's point, and Siete's point, and I do agree with you, because when you look at the indices of how Black women's lives are turning out, that we're dying, we're the highest to die from hypertension, we don't have access to mental health care as much as we should, and there are so many different indices that show that our lives are far worse than most groups that surround us, and particularly if we compare with Black men. So I'm not saying that Black men have it easy, they don't. But there is something in that means that we are not being served. We're not being served by our communities. We're not being served by Black women.
Right.
We're not being served by our communities. We're not being served by our family structures sometimes. The incidences of Black girls that go missing.
Yep.
They're running away from something. And so there's lots of information.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it, Rich. We're with you. I don't think you can hear us. Okay, not sure what's going on there. Mikhail, do you want to add anything to what we're saying?
Yeah, I was just literally listening to you guys speak. I'm just, for me, the way I've looked at all of these,
Okay, I didn't know if I was there because my reception keeps jumping in and out.
You're there, but Mikhail.
No, someone else speak. I'm gonna try and reload.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just, the way I look at a lot of these things, like Ty said, it took 2018 years to get to this kind of point. So when I come up, and I get woke at 17 years old, and, for me, I feel like, there's so many people who's come before me, right, who's tried to address, I guess, move the bar on a little bit. And we are where we are today. There's so many people who've come before me who's helped me stand the way I am today. And for me, when I look at these things, the problems that we have, we approach these problems. It's funny, we approach these problems still with, I guess, the Eurocentric mindset that we can, you know, strike something and it can change in a moment. Strike fear into people and they won't talk about, you know, how misogynist they are. Strike fear into them and they won't talk about, you know, the fact that they were reared to be homophobic. You know what I'm saying? But that's not really actually changing things. It's just making people go quiet. And for me, it's like, when you look at it, it's like, for me, culture, the way we, or should I say I, have treated women in the past as a teenager, or the way I may have been homophobic in secondary school, or the way, do you understand? All of these things were done so naturally. Does that make sense? They were done so I didn't even think about it. Does that make sense? Like, I said that to that girl naturally. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I didn't. I had a almost not naturally, sort of nurtured reaction to these different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which is why even me, same experience, when I saw two big Nigerian men walking down the street, you know, in London, holding hands, I was like, what the hell's going on there? But you know they're not gay, but you're just wondering why one. And so what I'm saying in a nutshell is that these things need to be changed with a cultural shift. And so it's like, and me looking at it, it's like, okay, it's like, now traditionally, for example, I put it onto myself. What is my responsibility? You understand? My service to this world is music. My service to this world is my point of view and how I, you know, embrace people one-on-one. These are the things that I do personally. Now, within that, how do I now help shift a culture? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The same way, you know, Hollywood is trying to shift the culture and how we see women and so-called ethnic minorities and things like that. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
You know? I always put these things on myself. What is my responsibility in this? And that's what I carry forward. Do you understand? There is no conversation that can change these things. It's a culmination of years upon years of cultural shifts. So when I have a child, this is how I raise them to see women. You know, for example, you know, I just literally watched on Instagram, Manhood Academy, these black men who started this academy for young boys to bring boys to a rites of passage. And one of the things they did today was took all of their boys in their alumni, right? And they boys brought pots of plants and cards with words for their mothers, and they all stood in a line and told their mothers what their mothers mean to them, and they were orientated by the head of the group about the importance of womanhood and the importance of motherhood. You understand? These are like 12-year-old youths. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Things that probably none of us on this panel ever experienced growing up. And so I'm saying, so what are those in 10 years? What are those 22-year-olds now going to look like when they go into business, into the world of, you know, when they start socializing, when they, you understand?
I definitely do. And I hear you. And that's...
Can I jump in with something real quick? I think it's interesting when I hear the conversation, and it's a few things come to mind. So one, I think in a response to, you know, to what Ty had said, and I know Ty for a number of years, and Ty, I would say, in my opinion, is one of the most progressive brothers I know in terms of how he deals with women. You know, in terms of the day-to-day interaction I've seen when we've been in groups and the way you deal with women, right? So it sounds like you're talking about how, in terms of not trying to go too far ahead, if I'm wrong, correct me, but it sounds like you're talking about other guys and how you see men in your maybe immediate vicinity
what I know
up to speed. Yeah, exactly, up to speed. And so I feel that, and also, you know, when Mikkel talks about, you know, a Eurocentric way of changing things, and it's funny because I was having a similar conversation with my girlfriend yesterday, and my partner, she works in women's rights. You know, she's quite an active and known women's rights activist, let's say. So we were also having this conversation, and we were talking about other women who have been given this title feminist, and it's a very individualistic feminism. a very, you know,
Western feminism, I call it.
Yeah, and it's about them and about them being empowered, individually, and then they will go and change stuff.
Yeah,
right. And not what boys say. It's about them changing individually and them inspiring other women. And one of the things they don't do is necessarily shout out all the feminists that have gone before them. In other words, always uplifting the community, not just yourself, right? So it's the same thing. You have the hip hop honors, and the rap artists would shout out all the old school rap artists. It's a way of keeping the community alive, keeping the ancestry and heritage alive in order to move forward, right? And so, I'm not just doing it for self. You know, like I'm a feminist. I'm a male feminist. It's about me, and I will change, and that was going to improve things. It's also about working in a community aspect, which is a very non-Eurocentric point of view. So I'd be careful. I'm not preaching to nobody, but the idea of you just changing yourself, I think, is broader than that. I think at the same time you change yourself, there is that responsibility to speak on it. When you hear your friends say something, to talk to them. When you have platforms where you, no, exactly right. So I think, but that's not necessarily. So change does, start within, but it's also we should do it as a community and with our peer groups. And
the thing is, we are the culture. We are.
Well, yeah, we are the culture.
The culture changes.
Exactly, and I think, and it's interesting because when my last point in this one, so I give space to other people to speak, was, to round it up, is when, as men, I think to be really careful of saying to women, we'll change when we're ready. Like, give us time to get there. I don't think it's going to change tomorrow. I don't think a snap conversation is going to change a guy's point of view, tomorrow. But we still have to have that conversation. And I say this because it's the same when I hear white people say, "Oh, black people, you need to work on your work on racism. We need to do it together." And from people a lot more versed and intelligent than I have said, from the black community, said actually racism isn't black people's problem. It's not our problem to work on. It's not our work to do. The people that have a problem with racism are white people. They're the ones who have issues with not seeing people as humane as them, not seeing people, being scared of people because of their skin color, being suspicious of them, not giving them the benefit of the doubt, doubting what they bring to the table. That's not our work to do. That's theirs. And in the same flex, in terms of patriarchy, in terms of misogyny, it's actually not women's work to do. No. It's our work to do as men. So, but a lot of it, the understanding of what it means to women does come from women. That's what women lead. When women speak, I'm shutting up, I'm listening. What have you got to say, and how can you teach me? It's my work to do, but it's not my conversation to have, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's not in our time. It can't be comfortable for me to say, I'm not ready yet. Even if I'm not ready, I've got to start. I've got to start.
So, Rich, just to be clear, I hope I hope you're not suggesting that that's what I'm saying.
No. That's what I said in the first place. Is that you're like, for you personally, like I said, I think knowing you and knowing your personal politics is one thing. Your peer group and maybe guys around you, right? It sounded like you're speaking about they're not ready for it.
I think I need to say this again, right? What I'm trying to say is the issue that is there, or the issues that we are having, right? Some people don't even know it's an issue.
Oh yeah.
So because they don't know it's an issue, right? It's all good we speaking in an echo chamber for the enlightened ones, but the fact is, I can see across the board, there's so many people that are not even really aware that they have particular traits or that they have particular things that need fixing. And I think that we need to create, and this is why this Google Hangout thing is interesting to me. We need to create a how do I put this? A process by which people start shedding their skin, or start looking at, what is this thing that I'm looking? What is this thing that I think that is right, or what I'm learning might not be right? What's going on, and then what is my relationship with women? Where am I going wrong? Where am I? What am I doing wrong? What am I allowing to happen wrong? I feel that I'm only speaking from a perspective of knowing all different kinds of mans. and knowing that, okay, those men, I want them in the conversation, but they won't stay in a conversation if it's just a thing of like, this is what it is, and now how are you going to fix this? Because they don't even know what they're dealing with, and that's where I'm coming from. It's not a thing of, oh, I want everything slow. I'm ready. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the room that the conversations. There needs to become a more conversational place for people to start understanding the errors of things they've been taught.
But that's what this is for. But
Yeah,
also, I think we should also know that people are willfully ignorant. In 2018, the amount of devices and information that we have access to more than any other generation means there is no reason why you shouldn't have the information on any information.
No, but you can't say that. You can't say there's no reason.
Well,
Simone, you can't say there's no reason. Everybody's different.
No, but that's why I'm talking about willful ignorance, because we have access. We have access more than any other generation has. So now it's about what you prioritize and what you want for yourself. It's not about
I
to create these processes. Sorry, sir.
I feel like it's in the middle, really, because I mean, to say that you know, Google exists and Facebook exists, and you know, these forums where vast amounts of knowledge are being shared exist. But if you don't even have enough insight to know what keywords to search, then what is that knowledge doing for you? You know, so the answer's in the middle.
But isn't it willful to not be in a reflected state as you're growing as a human? I mean,
I don't think it's
from reflection, right? And you guys,
I take it for granted.
Say it again, sorry.
I think that it's very easy for those of us who have access and privilege to take it for granted, and make assumptions about, you know, things like that. Like the fact that, you know, I'm from New York. I'm currently here in London. That alone is a very visible expression of my privilege to be able to travel, you know. But when you think about the fact that most Afro-Americans, which is what I can speak on, don't have a passport and can't afford to get a passport.
And don't feel they get a passport.
Well, yeah, you know, I had to talk to my mother about, like, you know, like, you better get a passport because you're a citizen, and that's the only documentation that verifies that you are one. So even if you're not going anywhere, you need to have it, especially in this political climate. You know, and that's just my conversation with her. But yeah, like, you know, access, education, you know, ability to travel, these are all privileges that we have, and it's very easy for us. If I can do it, so can you. Yeah, you know, but
that's not necessarily what I mean by the point of willful ignorance. I move.
No, that's not. But that's where some of your other parts of your, like, some of the other parts of your statement could go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can definitely see that. But I do also have experience of people who don't have the education I have, or maybe haven't moved in the circles I have, but totally get it on issues of humanity.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Can I jump in? It's really like Google Hangouts is really weird because it doesn't let people talk at the same time. It's really strange. It's like a weird conversation to have. I do agree that most dudes aren't there, right? That's obvious, and I think, and you know, a lot. People, guys I run with, guys I play ball with, guys I hang out with. Not everyone's at different places. And I think my only point was, regardless of where we are, the conversation's already started, and we need to have it. And it does mean some guys, easing them into it is a different. There's different strategies for different people, right? I don't necessarily think it is willful ignorance, because some people don't know they're being misogynist. I know guys who think they're not misogynist, and they will argue with you to the hilt that they're not. Yeah, but they say some pretty misogynist things sometimes, and some of it is.
The point is they are and don't know it.
But if we just turn the agencies to race,
it's even more complex than just that. You know, there are guys that I know who, you know, the women in their lives, like they're closest. Not even, you know, there's no way you're going to disrespect them. You're going to, you know, it disrespect them in any manner, just to umbrella it all. But they will occasionally say some stuff or do some stuff, and I'm like, that's a bit dodge. So that idea of all guys are either sexist or not is a little bit more complex. And the systems that tell us what being a man is, what gender is, it infects us all. Yeah. Right? Women at the brunt of it, men we benefit from a lot of it. You know, we get that privilege, so it doesn't affect us as much. And because of that, even when we make small gains, we think it's a bigger gain than it is. And then a woman will tell you, do you know that's how I feel all the time, and it feels really awkward. There was this really interesting David Chappelle skit I was watching the other day, in one of his I think it's The Life of Birds or something. One of his, yeah, and it's really interesting because there's a point in it where he talks about, you know, when he was younger, he was going through Brooklyn and some guys gave him, he did a comedy show and some guys gave him some money. That's how they washed their money. They gave him some money, and he basically went back to Brooklyn with the money in his backpack, like 25 grand or something.
Oh, I remember that.
And he was like, if anyone knew it was in my backpack, if all these guys knew it was in my backpack, I know they'll want it, and I know what they'll do to me to get it. And then he flipped the script and said, imagine if I had a pussy, mic drop, you know. And that's when imagine what he was carrying with him all through Brooklyn was a pussy. Imagine he had a pussy. The idea being that women probably feel under threat a lot of the time, and it's varying levels of threat, because they have something that a lot of guys want. Right? Whether it's threat from the extreme, which is rape and assault, to the threat of, oh, this guy's gonna talk to me again, and I'm gonna go to the next train, this other guy's gonna talk to me, I'm gonna walk down the street, another guy's gonna talk to me, etc., etc., etc. Right? That's when it crystallized it in a way that I think, in terms of people that maybe a bit more quote unquote mainstream might get, you know. So he's still having the same conversation, but he's framing it in a way that the average guy in the street will go, oh, I get that. And so I think with us, the conversation needs to be had, but it's just we go employ different strategies. Those who know, and we talk to them on a different plane. Guys who don't have a clue, we've got to explain it to them in ways they can imagine. And like, one way I you know, when I've talked to some of my friends about it is, I just reference their sisters and their mums or any women that's in their life. And and it's a basic question is, if your missus told you that she was not getting paid as much as John, who works in a cubicle next to her, how would you feel? Most guys, any guy would go, that's not right. She's doing the same work. So you get gender pay equality. What if your sister was walking down the street and a guy approached her and she didn't want to talk to him and he cussed her out? What would you think about that? Nah, that's wrong, man. I'm gonna do him something. Why? Because you understand that threat is not to be had. And you can just name any scenario in terms of what women might be affected by, and just relate to someone they know. And most guys will go, right, that's not right. And so they understand the concept of it. But what we do is, if you're close to me and I know you, I'll protect you. You've got to extend it. Exactly.
But that's my, and I wanted, sorry, I just wanted to jump in really quickly.
Before you jump in.
Okay.
But that's the way to have conversations, I feel, with guys who don't necessarily get it. You got to personalize it, you know, because it's still a concept. Patriarchy is a concept. Misogyny is a concept. Sexism is a concept. I'm not sexist to my sister or my missus or my cousin or her friend. All the other women, though, they can get it, bro. You know what I mean? So I think that's a point I wanted to raise, and I've also raised in other forums, just about when a lot of people respond to sexism or sexist acts by saying, what if that was your mother, or what if that was your sister? It actually irritates me, because what about the thousands of women who are walking around who have no family ties to you, no blood relationship to you, who demand respect as a human? Like, you shouldn't.
I think you start with
there.
I think that was the tail end of his statement where he said, you know, you have to expand their viewpoint to take it from something personal to something expansive. Like, you know, so it's like he used the personal example as a way to kind of like pierce the veil of the ignorance. Like, let me just get you under your ribs real quick. You know, but now that you can see this, now my responsibility is to show you that all of these women are your mother. all of these women are your sister. All of these women
are your
are,
girlfriend.
you know,
I get it. I'm not disagreeing. I get it and I understand it, but it doesn't go far enough. And it doesn't go far enough, and we need it to go further, because if we are going to do this changing, if we're going to change the culture, okay, you want to do it nicely, you don't want to scare people, but it's scary. 2018 is scary.
I'm not.
Yeah.
And so
Who doesn't want to scare people?
I just want to make the point that if we're always quantifying the relationships we have with women through family ties and women who service you, if they're servicing you in your community, or as a mother who's a caregiver, a sister is a caregiver, then we're not actually expanding the roles in which we see women, which is just there's a woman walking down the street and she just wants to walk down the street. Like
I think Simone,
have we unpacked what men swallow yet?
No, and like hours not enough. And I'm about to ask you guys, can we do a part 2? Because I don't even feel we scratched the surface. And if you're up for a part 2, I would love to bring you guys back. I really would.
I mean, I'm up for part 2, just put out there. But just in quick response, and that's a typically male thing to do, right? And it's not to have the last word either, right?
No, it's fine.
I think we were saying the same thing that you were saying. I think Siete summed up what I was trying to get at in a very long-winded way.
And I agree.
You know, and I think it's what it's you use the personal, like you said, to pierce the armor and get under the skin of somebody so they understand as a concept and they agree with you. They'll say, most guys will say to you, yo, that's wrong. Okay, cool. So now you believe it's wrong as a fundamental concept. Is it right to do it to someone else? And if they go, well, yeah, but you just told me it was wrong, bro. You know, so it's just a way of using the personal to get someone to understand the issue and then expand out to include all women. You can't just jump in and say, talk about all women as a concept, because a lot of guys, they won't get it. You know, it won't land. It didn't land with me when I was younger. You know, it's like, nah, man, you know, it's that conversation of, nah, she's a good woman, she's a hoe. And so the good women you treat like queens, you die for them, you live for them, blah, blah, blah. The hoe is like, well, boy, you know, she can get it. And it's when someone says to you, but if you believe that treating a woman is right, then you believe treating a woman is right. Yeah. You believe treating a woman is right. Yeah. So treat a woman right. And that's when you might get some legway and some leverage for somebody to understand it does go further than their immediate circle. You know, I think that's what I was trying to get at, and I think what Siete
and I agree.
Really
honestly, guys, quickly. I'm not even disagreeing. I just see how it doesn't go far enough, but I get it. You've got to pierce the surface. Hi, Mikhail, go for it.
I think people act out of all of these things are almost, again, like I said, a lot of these things are nurtured in a way that it feels natural, and so people don't change until they realize their livelihood is at stake. Does that make sense? Like, the reason I am the way I am, you understand, it's not, it's just because I've seen that by being like this, I have better relationships, I have more peace of mind. Like, I've been, when I thought other than the way I did, when I did look at women more objectively, does that make sense? And my only objective was sex, I realized I had no peace in my life. You know what I'm saying? And then the choices I made left me in a very bad way. You know what I'm saying? And so for my own livelihood, I was like, yo, I need to, because brother used the word, we benefit from being like this sometimes. And I actually really don't think we do, because our kids are the ones who are turning out in a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying? Our communities, like our sisters are being challenged in the way that we challenge women. Does that make sense? So really and truly, until we like see these things as a way, again, like I said, culturally, this is actually better for me in living my life. That's when guys are going to be like, you understand? Yeah. Guys can now take it and own it. A lot of people don't change, not even to like throw the conversation sideways, but it's like the same conversation with the whole, eating meat and things like that, It's like, what do you mean? Meat is my culture. Like, this is where I grew up. I'm an oxtail guy. See what I'm saying? But the moment that I can associate...
You guys are suffering from a KFC shortage, no?
No. But I'm saying the moment I can associate... the moment I can associate I guess my livelihood being disturbed to eating this way, then I'm going to change if I really see how that affects me. And that's, for example, I've been a vegan for 10 years because of that specific thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Not because I woke up one day and oxtail tasted bad. No, it didn't. Do you get what I'm saying? It's because I realized that this way is actually going to promote my happiness, health, and wealth. And for me, it's the same way. The truth has to be uncovered in how we treat our women, how we see our women within the community. It's actually better. Yeah. Most guys right now see it as like, oh man, what do you mean I can't just go out and just beat? What are you talking about? Like, no, man, I just like right now it's like taking a piece of chicken away from someone. That you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Again, Mikhail summed it up.
Yeah, perfectly. You really did.
Summed up perfectly, bro, perfectly.
You really did, and that's a great analogy.
but and it really is, because a lot of guys, it's the same thing when you talk about men. Like if you talk about racism, and it's the whole pushback against affirmative action, right? Is that I'm not going to benefit by giving up my job or my position for someone else. That's why I'm going to fight to keep my privilege. And so as men, we do have a certain privilege, and it's interesting to have, you're gonna have to have that conversation with guys so they see it as a benefit. I think Mikhail's completely right, that the women in your life are empowered, and then all women are empowered. It makes everything better. It makes your relationships better. Even if you just are the dude that just wants to beat, like let's say you're selfishly you want to go out there, you can do your thing. If there was no stigma around women doing their own thing as well, and you might have a better sex life, bro. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of twisted depending on how you view relationships and your politics around that. But that could work for you if in your household your woman is earning more than you, bruv, you've got double income. You can go on better holidays. You know what I mean? Or if you prefer her just to be at home making you food, and that's better for you, that you both been able to go out and eat the best food, that's your choice as well. But it'd be better for you if your household has more income. It'd be better for you if, you know what I mean? Like in very basic levels I'm talking about. But it's to get guys to see the benefits of it, not for benefit's sake, but that's a way in, I guess.
I understand.
Right, and I do feel like there's something to be said that we shouldn't be supporting women out of self-interest or out of for our benefit, even though we do benefit from the elevation of women, and particularly in African spiritualities. For instance, there's a story about Oshun among the Yoruba, where the male deities were not respecting her, and so she pulled away her ashe from the universe, and it all really pretty much fell apart, and creation almost died until they went and reintegrated her back into the community. There's a lot of other details about that story that will be a bit too long to have a nuanced conversation about. But yes, we suffer, we die without the full in the community.
So with the last 3 minutes, because we've gone over, as I said, I'm inviting you guys back. Please, let's do part 2, because we didn't scratch the surface. But also, thank you for challenging me. I realize that sometimes I can be entrenched in some of my thoughts because I work in this area, and just female empowerment, particularly Black female empowerment, is incredibly important to me. It's been the work, most of my work for the last 10 years. So I'm committed. I put resources into this, and so it's important to me. So I guess just to wrap this up, and just to fast forward and jump, which we've been doing in the last 3 minutes, can you tell me just one thing, each of you, that you do to kind of free yourself from any kind of box that you feel your masculinity or Black masculinity has put you in? Any kind of healing processes, or just anything you can think of that you do to make yourself feel like you? Ty.
Listen to women.
No, not me.
Oh, okay.
Someone else.
Mikhail?
I listen.
You listen to women.
I just talk to women, like, but from a genuine point of view, like, just actually listen. Like, I really benefit from being um, I had no game growing up, so my only thing to do interact with women was speak truth to them, and I started to realize how much I got to know about women, how they feel about things, men, life, all of these things, just by speaking my truth to them, but how I'm feeling, as explicit as it is, whatever, even if it's ignorant, speaking my truth and allowing the reflection to come back at me and learning from that. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Rich, to you.
Oh man, I mean, I've got a lot of work to do. I think what
Oh, we're freezing.
is, have I frozen?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Is I check myself on a regular basis. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm self-critical anyway by nature, but I try to turn into a positive and just, you know, self-analyze and make sure, or try to make sure that I'm taking the points of view, like whatever I read. Like I'm reading Audre Lorde at the moment. I picked up one of the small little penguin books, with some of her essays, and so I'm just reading some of that, for instance. But generally, I surround myself with good people. I take the bitter pill when I've got to swallow it, and when people tell me I'm messing up, or you know, yeah, I just try and do the work. It's a daily thing. I've got a point of view that I realize is wrapped up in a bit of privilege. From a point of being a male, that privilege goes away when, you know, it's them in, you know, in terms of racism. Sometimes that privilege goes away. But at the same time, I just try and enrich my life. I try and hang around good people. My gran said from a long time ago, you know, one of the things she's always said to me is be good to yourself. And my gran is the most spiritual person in our family. And so I know she means a lot deeper than just be nice to yourself. I mean, she means on all levels. And so that's one of my little mantras, you know, try and be good to myself. Yeah.
I like that. Siete, over to you. What do you do?
I learned very early that I wouldn't survive if I didn't do my due diligence to learn who I was, and then, you know, assert myself and affirm myself. So, you know, kind of like that process of investigation, and then of standing strong in the face of society and ways in which society seeks to repress me individually and my people as a whole. You know, you kind of just have to get to the point where you're like, I am who I am and fuck you. You know?
Yes.
You know, people are very surprised at that coming from me because I am a priest. But, you know, for real, you know, like it's you know, you are a cause as well that you should support, you know?
Yeah. I like that.
So,
you are a cause that you should support. I really like that. I really like the way you put that together. Makes me think about things a little differently. Ty, can we come back to you? Or
Yeah, ask me the question again.
So just one thing that you do to really bring yourself out of any box that you feel as a Black man is not happening, it's not working for you, it's not positive for you. So a healing process, you know, just anything you do to remember you and the essence of you, not these constructs.
The thing I could say is I just go backwards. So I go back through childhood and I figure out my story. I believe there's a thing. I believe that everybody who is doing whatever they're doing today, that your soundtrack to your movie is your childhood, your adulthood, your teenage period. And there's moments where there are pivotal moments that you may not have realized were pivotal in regards to what you do now. I always go back and look through those. So I look through fostering, adoption, childhood, being kind of being not included in being cool as a young Black African when I was growing up. All of those things to whatever's going on now. I look back like a film. I go through them and I think, okay, what are the things that are making me do this or making me do that? What was the turning point? Is it a good turning point? Is it a bad turning point? Do I need to switch that? do I need to turn that off a little bit? I recap. That's what I do.
I like that. I like that. Reflection. It works. So we have gone over because we've got a lot to say, and I feel like a lot of these kind of conversations, they're not happening in this way, but I'm really proud of what we've done in this hour and 30 minutes, no, 15 minutes that we spent talking. I really hope that we can do a part 2. So please, guys, a big round of applause from me and a big thank you. Thank you for giving me your time on this Sunday. I hope this has been helpful to everyone who's been viewing. And I guess tell us a little bit about where we can find you, what you're promoting at the moment. You know, let us know. Ty, you first.
You can find me on Time Music on Instagram and stuff. Can I say this? Yes. People, continue the conversation in the comments. It doesn't have to end. Continue it in the comments.
Thank you. I love that. You can at me at Simone Possible on Instagram, and please let me know what you think. Mikhail, where can we find you? What are you doing next? What's your thing?
You can find me at Mikhail Amin on Instagram or worldchangeyourlife.com. Next up, bringing people to South Africa. I bring people to Africa every year on transformative experiences, new experiences of Africa. So this year we're going to South Africa. You can learn more about that on my social media.
Love it. Thank you. Rich, where you at?
Instagram, you can find me at Rich Black Shoots. So it's RICHBLKSHOOTS. Richblack.com, RICHBLK.com. And then my name, Richard Kaloma, on LinkedIn.
Love it. Siete, where can we find you?
Hi, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Siete Saudades. So that's Siete_Saudades for Instagram. My website is spiritualmercenary.com. And there will soon be a website for the Myriad that will be listed as well.
Brilliant. I love it. Guys, again, thank you for this. I'm really, really proud of what we've done today. Thanks. So we're going to say goodbye, everyone. See you later.
All right, bye, everyone.
See you later.